my favorite spot. Welcome to Sundays. Sundays are my day of reflection. And I had this thought. I've been reading this book, Transurfing, and it's a really nice reminder for me. It says here that thoughts materialize in the world mirror. The principle of creating your own reality lies in the turning loop in the opposite direction. Look at yourself first and only then in the mirror. And lately, what I've been doing is looking in the mirror and just feeling as if that's not me. And I also started to think like, okay, who is that person in the mirror? And I feel like we attach ourselves to this idea of who we should be, who we were yesterday, who we want to be in the future, where we want to be, what we want to materialize in the future, and in turn, who we're going to become. And I'm starting to realize that if we really look deeper into the nature of things, we'll start to see that nothing in this life is permanent, and everything in this life is ever fleeting and changing in nature, in every aspect of life. And that being said, for us to believe that we're still the same tomorrow and that we're not changing and we can't change is kind of a myth and ultimately a choice. And if we have that belief system, then naturally things won't change and things will perpetually stay the same, because it's a mindset that we choose to hold on to as opposed to being open to change. And I think that I looked up on ChatGPT and I asked them what the biggest misconception about life is to a human being. And the number one thing that it said was that people oftentimes believe that everything externally is going to bring them happiness and peace, when in reality that's not the case. And that could go as far as to talk about fame, money, wealth, all of those things. But if you really look deeper, you'll find that all of that peace and happiness actually comes from within. And those things will not make us happy on the external. And it's also a part of human nature to desire things. And once we achieve and get something that we worked for, we'll realize soon enough that there's something else that always pops up. And that's something we know that we can't deny. But it says here that all you have to do is switch your attention from the reflection to the image in front of it. In other words, take control of your thoughts. Don't think about the things you don't want and try to avoid. Think about the things you do want and are striving to achieve. Look at yourself first and only then in the mirror. And so I was like looking at myself in the mirror, and I'm like, that's not me. And who I perceive myself to be is not actually me either. So who do I, like, what is true and what am I? And I think the true nature of who I am is that I just want to be happy, just like every single other human being on this planet, is that we just all want to be happy. But even looking beyond that, I'm realizing like what is actually going to make me happy. I'm realizing that actually it's creating more peace within my mind, and in turn not reacting to circumstances or external validation or anything that could potentially trigger and affect my peace of mind. And oftentimes when we're tested it's in those random moments that are very unexpected that we're tested, and that's when we have to really, be extra clear and mindful. So I'll give you an example. Like, I was feeling as though I was very peaceful and I was calm, and that morning I was driving to work and somebody, was like in need. He had like an amputated leg, and I offered him some food, and then later on I realized that I had more, so I wanted to give him more. And in that moment, the light had just changed. So he started to panic a little bit because he didn't want to hold people up. And then I started to panic. But I feel like if I was really calm and collected, I would have been okay with getting out of the car, handing him the food, and turning around to just apologize to others for that one extra 10 seconds that it required for me to say something. But I didn't. And in that moment, I chose to react. And it's these little moments that could define everything. And in retrospect, I'm kind of like, I was a little bit disappointed that I didn't. And that's where the guilt comes in, right? But obviously, I'm dealing with it and I've dealt with it and all is good. But I feel as though that if I really truly had a very peaceful mind and I meditated that morning, I would have been clear enough and clear-headed enough to kind of stop myself and be more present and more aware, as opposed to rushing around like everybody else on this planet, or the majority of the people on this planet. But despite that, I wanted to hop on here and talk about how we perceive ourselves says so much about our life and the way our lives materialize. Everything in the physical world is a reflection of who we are, and we have the power to decide for ourselves who we want to be today, day in and a day out. And just because we were somebody yesterday, it doesn't mean we have to stay that person. We can choose, and we have the freedom to choose who we want to show up as the next day. And there's this misconception that sometimes you have to be selfish in order to show up for yourself. But if you were feeling safe and confident enough in your own ability, and were being really honest enough and took responsibility for every single thing that's transpired in your life, negative and positive, then perhaps you might not feel the necessity to be a little bit more, to be less compassionate. Because I think that a lot of people, if we see really truly and like look at people, we can have more compassion for them and bring more wisdom and light to the situation by just knowing exactly, seeing more clearly and like what they're dealing with. And oftentimes it has to do with struggles and challenges themselves. It's nothing personal. And so I'm hopping on here just to ask you to look deeper into the person that you are today and the reflection in the mirror, and not take it so literally. Because I think the more we take our reflection literally, as in attach ourselves to the person that we were yesterday, rather than looking into understanding the reality of things, that is, we're constantly changing, we're constantly growing, we're constantly improving, and therefore we don't need to attach ourselves to the tendencies, is the first step. And also, like, this act of taking action, it's like we sometimes judge ourselves so harshly to the point where it stops us in our tracks of actually getting things done and taking action towards what we love. And it's that insecurity that holds us back. But if we can start to not start to objectify who we are, then in the reflection of that mirror and how we are perceiving ourselves, then perhaps, like, I feel like things will just naturally materialize effortlessly because we're living in our truth and we're just being and we're producing and not judging and objectifying every single thing that we do. And I really believe that it's up to us to choose. So I feel like I went on a little bit of a tangent, but I hope that was helpful, because it was really helpful for me, and it has me really thinking about my life and the true nature of things. And the true nature is that things are constantly changing. If you're sitting in a classroom with 10 other people and you're watching something, you actually have 10 different observations about that one thing that you're watching. One that, like, say you're watching Inception, you are going to literally get 10 different opinions and objective perspectives on that movie. And some of them might be similar, but none of them will be the same. And it's because we are constantly all perceiving things differently, and therefore there's not one idea that is right or wrong. We are all objectifying every single thing that we go through in life. And that's the freaking nuts thing. That's the crazy part of it, right? Like, we don't know the truth. We don't know what's actually transpiring in somebody's life externally. We can only assume. And, like, I'm not calling people out. I'm just saying, like, this is the truth. Like, this is my favorite spot. I come here if I'm feeling sad, but I also come here when I'm feeling great. And some people might perceive me coming to this place as like a sad thing or something, where I'm going through a problem, what have you. But the truth is, that's not how I am. I do both. So I just think that you can change your reality today. You don't have to stay stuck and be that same person you were yesterday. Nobody's forcing you to do anything. So, sending all the love and light. Bye.